I knew something was wrong the moment the key didn't fit. It was subtle, just a faint resistance, a twist that snagged mid-turn, like the lock itself was confused about who I was. I frowned, jiggling it, then tried again. Same snag. Then the click. An unfamiliar, reluctant one. When the door finally creaked open, the smell hit me first. Citrus cleaner, sharp and artificial. The kind of smell that tries too hard to say fresh start. But this wasn't supposed to be anyone's fresh start. This was Grandma's condo. My inheritance. My sanctuary. For a second, I stood in the doorway, frozen, trying to understand why her lavender air fresheners were gone, why the lace curtains had been replaced with sterile gray blinds, why the wall that used to have her framed embroidery now displayed an abstract painting in muted beige tones. It looked like someone else lived here. I stepped in slowly, every footstep heavy with disbelief. The wooden floors gleamed too brightly, freshly polished, as if to erase years of quiet love that had soaked into them. And there it was, the rug. Or rather, the absence of it. Grandma's Persian rug, the one she'd bought with her first paycheck as a nurse, the one she always said she wanted me to have, was gone. I called out, my voice catching. Hello. Silence. Just the faint hum of the fridge. My pulse thudded louder than the sound. I moved toward the kitchen, and that's when I noticed something else. A stack of cardboard boxes by the counter. One was labeled staging supplies in black marker. Staging. My breath caught. My hands went cold. No. I grabbed my phone and dialed my sister, Claire. The line rang twice before she picked up, her voice annoyingly calm. Hey Maya. What's up? Claire, I said, barely managing to steady my voice. Why are there boxes labeled staging in Grandma's condo? There was a pause, barely half a second, but enough to tell me she hadn't expected that question. Oh, she said lightly. You're there already? I was going to call you later. Call me about what? My throat tightened. Claire, what's going on? She exhaled like I was being dramatic. Relax, Maya. I just had the place prepped. Cleaned up and staged. It's going to sell so much faster now. Sell. The word cracked like glass in my chest. What did you just say? The condo, Maya. Grandma's condo. Her voice was casual, businesslike. You weren't doing anything with it. It's been sitting empty for months. I figured it was time to move forward. Move forward. My voice rose. Claire, it's mine. She left it to me. I know, she said quickly, as if that part were irrelevant. And you'll get your half. My half. I repeated, my heart hammering. There is no half. The will was complicated, she interrupted. Dad and I went through it with the lawyer. There's some legal language about shared assets. It's better if I handle the sale. Trust me, you'll thank me when you see the check. Her words blurred together, the way voices do underwater. My head spun. I clutched the counter for balance, staring at the unfamiliar decor that had erased every trace of Grandma. Claire, I whispered. You didn't. Maya, she sighed. I did what needed to be done. You're too emotional about all this. It's just a condo. It wasn't just a condo. It was the last piece of home I had left. After Grandma died, I'd spent nights sitting by her old window seat, tracing the patterns on the glass she'd etched herself. I could still hear her humming, her voice warm and fragile, the way she'd whisper, "Promise me you'll take care of this place, sweetheart. It's full of memories." Promised. And now my sister had sold it like it was nothing more than an asset on a spreadsheet. Claire, I said, forcing the words out. When did you list it? Last week, she said. Actually, it sold pretty fast. Cash buyer. We close next Friday. The world tilted. You already sold it? My voice cracked. It's done, Maya. It's not a big deal, okay? You'll get your share once escrow clears. Something inside me snapped then. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, like a silk thread breaking after being pulled too tight for too long. I ended the call without another word. My hand was shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I stood there in the middle of the living room, surrounded by ghosts and strangers' furniture, trying to process that my sister, my only remaining family, had stolen the one thing that still made me feel close to Grandma. A noise startled me. A door shutting down the hall. I turned sharply. A woman stepped out of the master bedroom, maybe mid-40s, short blonde hair, clipboard in hand, wearing a blazer. She froze when she saw me. Oh, you must be the buyer, she said, recovering quickly with a rehearsed smile. Sorry, I didn't know anyone was scheduled for another viewing today. I blinked. My mouth went dry. I'm not the buyer. I'm the owner. Her expression flickered, a small frown forming. Owner? But wait, are you Maya Ross? Yes. The woman's color drained. Oh, I am so sorry. I thought, your sister said you'd already signed off. She what? The woman looked genuinely uncomfortable now, shifting her weight. She told me you were co-owner and that you'd agreed to the sale. Everything's been processed through escrow. The buyer's agent already wired the deposit. I stared at her, the room spinning. She forged my consent, I said, my voice low, trembling. She forged my signature. The woman hesitated, lowering her clipboard. If that's true, you should talk to your attorney. But the sales, well, it's almost finalized. Almost. Not yet. I took a shaky breath, forcing air into my lungs. My hands were cold, but my mind was sharp now. Focused. There was no panic, no tears. Just a rising clarity that burned like acid through the fog. Claire thought she could outsmart me. She thought she could take everything again, and that I'd just let her. Not this time, because she made a crucial mistake. She underestimated how much I remember. And she didn't know about the key Grandma gave me before she died. The second key, the one to the small steel box she kept hidden behind the mirror in her bedroom closet. A box Claire never knew existed. I turned toward the hallway, my pulse steadying with purpose. If she wanted a war over Grandma's legacy, she'd get one. But I wasn't walking into it blind. The air in the condo felt heavier now, charged with something I hadn't felt since Grandma's funeral. A mixture of rage, grief, and the eerie calm that comes just before a storm. I walked down the hallway toward her bedroom, each step echoing faintly off the walls. Claire had stripped the place bare. New sheets, new curtains, new everything, but she couldn't erase memory. I still remembered the faint dent on the third floorboard. The one that creaked when Grandma used to sneak cookies into her room so Dad wouldn't scold her for eating sugar past midnight. The mirror on the closet door reflected a stranger now, my face pale, eyes dark and hollow with disbelief. For a moment I just stared at myself. Then I reached behind the frame and felt for the latch. Click. The panel slid open easily, just like Grandma showed me when I was 15. Behind it was a small steel box, dull with age but still solid, with an embossed rose on the lid. My fingers trembled as I slid the old key in. It fit perfectly, one of the last physical links to her that Claire hadn't taken. Inside, there were only a few things. An envelope with my name written in Grandma's delicate cursive, a small velvet pouch, and a single folded document. I sat on the floor and opened the envelope first. My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope you know how proud I am of you. For your strength, your honesty, your heart. I know how easily people can twist goodness into weakness, but don't let them. You have your mother's courage and my stubbornness. That will save you when the time comes. I've arranged for this condo to be yours, only yours. I know Claire and your father will try to interfere. I love them, but they've always seen the world through numbers, not feelings. You see through people. That's rarer than gold. Keep this letter safe and never doubt what's rightfully yours. Love always, Grandma. I read it twice before the tears finally came, hot, furious, and unstoppable. She knew. Grandma knew they would try something. And she'd left me proof. Not just the will, but her words in her handwriting. Wiping my eyes, I turned to the document. It was the original property deed, signed, notarized, and clearly naming me, Maya Ross, as the sole owner. The will had mentioned this, but my copy had gone missing right after Grandma's death. Claire had claimed she couldn't find it. Now I knew why. I tucked everything back into the box carefully, but not before noticing the velvet pouch. Inside was a gold chain with a small locket. When I opened it, there was a faded photo of Grandma holding me as a baby, and tucked behind it, a folded scrap of paper with a bank's name and a series of digits. A savings account. I didn't know it then, but that tiny piece of paper would later unravel everything. The next day, I called the lawyer, Grandma's old estate attorney, Mr. Henley. He was in his 70s now, his voice warm and measured, the kind that carried weight. Maya, my dear, he said after I explained everything. I was afraid of something like this. Your sister contacted me a few months ago. asking for copies of the estate paperwork. She claimed you'd authorized her to manage the condo. I didn't, I said, gripping the phone. She forged my signature. I see. His tone turned grave. Then we have a serious problem, but not an unsolvable one. If you still have your grandmother's original deed, bring it to me immediately. We'll file a fraud report and motion to halt the sale. I exhaled for the first time in hours. I have it. I'll come by this afternoon. Good. And Maya. His voice softened. Your grandmother trusted you for a reason. Don't let guilt make you hesitate. What Claire did is not a misunderstanding, it's theft. I left the condo and drove through downtown, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Outside, the world looked annoyingly normal. Sunlight reflecting off glass buildings, people laughing in crosswalks. My insides were chaos, but the city didn't care. Halfway to the law office, my phone buzzed. Claire. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Maya, she said immediately, her tone sharp. What are you doing? Fixing your mistake. Her voice rose. You went through Grandma's stuff, didn't you? That's private property now. It's my property, I cut in. And I have proof. The original deed, the will, everything. For the first time there was silence. Then a shaky laugh. Oh Maya, you really think you can fight me on this? You don't even have the money for a lawyer. I don't need money to expose a crime, I said evenly. You forged my name, Claire. That's a felony. Her tone changed instantly, lower, colder. Don't you dare threaten me. I'm not threatening, I said. I'm just telling you what happens next. She inhaled sharply, then said, You always were dramatic. Grandma spoiled you, made you think you deserved more than you did. That condo was meant for both of us. No, I whispered. It was meant for whoever loved her enough to protect it. You loved what she had, not who she was. Spare me the moral speech, she snapped. You think you're better than me, but you're not. You're just weak enough to think fairness exists. Then the line went dead. When I arrived at Mr. Henley's office, I felt steadier, like fury had crystallized into purpose. He greeted me with his usual old-fashioned courtesy, leading me into a wood-paneled room that smelled faintly of dust and lemon oil. I placed the steel box on his desk. He examined the documents carefully, his eyes narrowing behind his glasses. This, he said after a moment, is the original deed, unaltered. That means the copy your sister submitted to escrow must have been forged. He flipped through the envelope and nodded. Her signature style is inconsistent. Look here, them in your name curls inward on her version. On yours it loops. Classic sign of forgery. My stomach twisted. So what happens now? We file an injunction immediately, he said. If escrow hasn't closed, we can stop the sale. But Maya, he leaned forward. There's something else. He opened a folder on his desk. The buyer. Did your sister tell you who it was? No, I said. She just said it was a cash buyer. He slid a paper across the desk. My eyes fell on the name. Loren Mitchell. I froze. That name wasn't random. Loren Mitchell was Claire's ex-boyfriend, the one she dated for 3 years before he left her for someone else. A wealthy real estate investor. The same man who had, ironically, made his fortune flipping inherited properties. The condo wasn't just a sale. It was a move. A calculated one. Do you know him? Mr. Henley asked, noticing my expression. Yes, I said slowly, piecing it together. He used to date my sister. His brow furrowed. That complicates things. If this was done through him, there may be collusion. And if money exchanged hands under false pretenses, it becomes fraud with intent. I felt sick. So she wasn't just selling it. She was laundering it through him. He nodded grimly. It looks that way. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Claire's face, calm, smiling, smug. And behind it, Grandma's gentle voice whispering, you see through people. Maybe Claire thought I'd be too sentimental to fight. But sentiment isn't weakness. It's memory sharpened into resolve. At 2 a.m., I opened my laptop and began digging through the escrow documents Claire had emailed months ago. For transparency. I hadn't looked at them then, too numb from grief. But now, zooming in on the fine print, I noticed something chilling. The buyer's address wasn't Loren Mitchell's. It was a shell company, LMM Holdings, registered 2 months ago. Loren Mitchell Management Holdings. A front. And the bank account where the deposit was sent? It wasn't Claire's. It was jointly owned under both their names. I sat back stunned. My chest felt tight, like the air itself had turned heavier. This wasn't just betrayal. It was partnership. My sister hadn't sold Grandma's condo behind my back. She'd sold it to her ex-boyfriend, and they were planning to keep the profit together. By the next morning, I was no longer the same person who had stood frozen in that condo doorway. Something inside me had changed, like grief had solidified into bone. The fragile, forgiving version of me that used to smooth things over for the sake of family was gone. Now I wanted truth, no matter how much it hurt. I drove to Claire's house unannounced. The morning air was cold, the kind that bites at your skin and clears your thoughts. Her neighborhood looked as picture-perfect as ever, lined with manicured hedges, shiny SUVs, and the faint hum of sprinklers turning in rhythmic arcs. I parked outside her 2-story colonial with the blue shutters and just sat there for a moment staring. The curtains were drawn, but I could see her silhouette moving inside. My hand hovered over the door handle. Part of me still wanted to believe there was some explanation, that maybe this was all a misunderstanding. But then I remembered Grandma's voice again. You see through people. I saw through her now. When Claire opened the door, she wasn't surprised to see me. If anything, she looked irritated, like I'd interrupted her morning yoga routine. Maya, she said flatly, crossing her arms. You shouldn't be here. I stepped past her before she could block me. You shouldn't have sold my condo. Her jaw tightened. Our condo. Don't start that again. I turned to face her. I know about Loren. For a moment her expression faltered. Just for a heartbeat. Then her eyes hardened. You've been digging. I found the escrow documents, I said. The shell company, the joint account. You weren't just selling the condo, Claire. You were flipping it through your ex to launder the profit. She laughed, sharp and humorless. God, listen to yourself. You make it sound like some crime thriller. It is a crime, I said quietly. Forgery. Fraud. Wire transfer under false pretenses. You forged my signature, Claire. She looked away, then down at the floor, her voice lowering. You don't understand. Then make me understand, I said. Because from where I'm standing, you sold Grandma's home and tried to steal everything she left me. Her shoulders sagged. For a brief moment, I thought I saw guilt flicker across her face. Then she exhaled shakily. I had no choice. No choice. I repeated. Claire, you had every choice. You think I did this for myself? She snapped suddenly, her composure cracking. You think I wanted to? I was drowning, Maya. I have debts, medical, credit, you name it. I've been keeping everything afloat since Mom died. Dad's retirement fell apart. You wouldn't know because you live in your little bubble of moral purity. That's not an excuse, I said. You could have come to me. We could have figured something out. She laughed bitterly. Right. Like you would have helped me. You can't even forgive me for taking Grandma's jewelry last year. That's because you pawned it. I shouted. She told you to keep it safe. Her lips pressed together. I needed the money. You always need something, I said, the anger finally breaking loose. And you always take it from someone else. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. Then I said softly, How could you do this to me, Claire? To Grandma. Her voice cracked when she answered. Because she loved you more. The words hit me like a slap. What? Her eyes glistened, but not from remorse, from resentment. You think I didn't notice? You were the favorite. The golden girl. Grandma's little shadow. She left you the condo, the letters, the jewelry. She left me nothing. I'm her granddaughter too, Maya. But all she ever saw was you. That's not true, I said, though part of me wasn't sure. She loved both of us. She pitied me, Claire said coldly. You were the one she trusted. You were the one she called every week. When she got sick, you got the bedside seat. I got the errands and the bills. Do you have any idea what that feels like? I swallowed hard. Claire, I didn't ask for that. No, she said, voice trembling. You just were that. The one she chose. The one everyone liked more. You got her approval, her affection, and now her condo. I just wanted one thing that was equal. I stared at her. There it was, the truth, raw and ugly. Not just greed. Jealousy. Years of it, festering in silence until it rotted her from the inside. Claire, I said finally, you could have told me how you felt. She scoffed. And what? You'd have given me half? Please. Something inside me broke then, not in anger this time but sorrow, because for the first time I saw her clearly. The woman who'd once braided my hair, who'd sneaked me chocolate after bedtime, now standing there like a stranger. Grandma warned me, I said softly. She said people who confuse love with fairness end up destroying both. Her expression flickered, confusion clouding her face. She said that. I nodded. She wrote it. In the letter she left for me. That got her attention. Letter. Yes, I said. And the deed. The original one. With her signature and mine. Mr. Henley has already filed a fraud claim. Her eyes widened, panic flashing for the first time. You went to Henley? He's freezing the sale as we speak. She took a step toward me, her voice shaking now. Maya, wait, don't do this. Please. If this goes public, I'll lose everything. My job, my license. You should have thought about that before you stole from your family. I am your family, she shouted. And I made a mistake, okay? One mistake. I looked at her, my heart heavy. No, Claire. You made a choice. For a moment I thought she'd break down. Her eyes glistened, her breath trembling. But then she did something I didn't expect. She straightened, her expression hardening like ice forming over water. You don't want to fight me on this, she said quietly. You really don't. Why not? I asked. Because you don't know everything. Something in her tone made the back of my neck prickle. What does that mean? She tilted her head slightly, a cruel half-smile forming. You think Grandma was perfect. You think she left that condo to you out of pure love? You have no idea what she was hiding. Stop it, I said, though my stomach nodded. You're lying. Am I? She said. Ask Henley about the missing file. The one he never showed you. There's more to that will than you think. My pulse raced. What are you talking about? But she just smiled faintly, her eyes gleaming with something almost triumphant. You'll see. You always thought she was honest with you. But she wasn't. The words hung in the air like smoke. I turned toward the door, needing to breathe, to think. She didn't try to stop me this time. As I reached for the handle, I heard her voice behind me, soft but cutting. You're not the only one Grandma lied to. Outside, I leaned against my car, trying to steady my hands. What had she meant? What missing file? Mr. Henley had seemed so certain that everything was straightforward. But Claire's tone, it wasn't bluffing. It was confident. Like she knew something that could unravel everything. I drove to Henley's office again, heart pounding. When I told him what she'd said, his face went pale. There was a missing file, he admitted reluctantly. A supplemental addendum. I assumed it was misplaced during probate. What kind of addendum? He hesitated. It referenced a joint asset clause, something about an account connected to the condo. Your grandmother mentioned it once, but she said it was minor. I didn't think it altered ownership. I froze. A joint asset clause. And then I remembered the folded scrap of paper hidden behind Grandma's locket, the one with the bank's name and the numbers. The savings account. My mind spun. That account, what if it's linked to the property? It could be, Henley said slowly. If so, we need to find out who the other beneficiary is. If your sister finds it first. He didn't have to finish. I was already out of my chair, clutching my purse, the locket burning like a brand in my pocket. That night, I sat alone in the condo again. The blinds were half open, moonlight cutting silver lines across the empty living room. Everything smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and loss. I opened the velvet pouch and stared at the numbers again. Tomorrow I'd go to the bank. Tomorrow I'd find out the truth. About Grandma, the account, and whatever secret Claire thought she had over me. But as I sat there in the silence, one thought wouldn't leave my mind. If Grandma truly hid something from me, then maybe Claire's betrayal wasn't the only one waiting to be uncovered.